In this module, we will show you how to configure dial plan access restrictions using custom context panel. First, log into your UCX using your administrative account. From the dashboard, click PBX tab. And from PBX tab, you can scroll down on the left-hand side until you see custom context and click on it. So as you can see, this is the panel where we can create contexts. We will create two contexts in order to show two particular scenarios. So the first scenario we will demonstrate is a case where we have a SIP extension that's sitting in a conference room, for instance, that we do want to allow access to all the employees' extension, but not being able to dial out, whether it's a long distance call or local calls. That's going to be the first scenario we will demonstrate. The second context we will create will be a case where we want to restrict certain employees to access outgoing routes using a long distance dialing sequence. So let's create the first one. So the first one, we're already in the panel to create a context. All we have to do is give it a name. In this case, let's call it disable external dialing, and then press submit. Now, before we click on apply configuration changes, let's scroll down and see what we have. So as you can see, there's a numerous number of parameters that get shown on that particular panel as you create a context. And there's various things that you can allow, deny, etc. So there's a lot of flexibility as to what you want to restrict. And in this particular example, what we will do is, like I said, the first scenario is simply restrict all the capability to dial out using an outgoing route. So the concept is to start by using the set all into a particular state. All the parameters will start with that state. So in this case, we will use the negative form, if you will. So we will allow everything. And as you select allow everything, all the parameters, as you can see, are automatically configured with the allow value. And we will restrict what we want. So in this case, we will scroll down until we see the outgoing route parameter. And notice that this one is red, just like the one on top. And I'll explain why that is. So let's first of all configure this one to deny. And then since we want to deny outgoing calls, we will associate this parameter to the outgoing routes that we want to deny. Now, I want to allow this one because I do want to have access to all the employees extension locally to the UCX system here, and of course to the ones connected to the headquarter branch. So the one I want to disallow is essentially this one here, so I'm going to select deny. Unfortunately, that's not sufficient, so you have to scroll up, and this goes back to the comment I was making about the fact that this parameter is red. Those two parameters red simply means that they go hand in hand. So what we have to do is we have to mimic or configure the same value in order to make this work. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And unlike what this parameter says, it will not disable the context to access the internal dial plan. It simply means that the internal dial plan is going to be affected by a further rule that is defined further down on this panel, which is the outgoing route that we just configured. So now that we have configured the panel, we can actually apply the changes. And notice that it throws us automatically to the extension panel, which is typically where you can assign a custom context. Typically, you would assign custom context against extension, but that could also be assigned to trunks as well, which is outside the scope of this particular training module. So now I'm going to pick this extension here and associate the custom context we just created to this particular extension such that we can apply the restrictions on that extension. And the way we do this is you scroll down on that panel until you see custom context right here. And now, as you may not have noticed, but every time you create a new extension by default, you will have the default context, which is allow all, obviously. It will now show up under the pull down menu. So now I can actually select it and essentially click the submit button. And of course, don't forget to click on the apply configuration changes to bring your changes into effect. And now we have an extension that essentially is able to call any employee's extension within the UCX or headquarter, but is not capable of dialing out using the outgoing trunk for local calls or a long distance call. So that concludes the first scenario. Now what we want to do is we want to configure a custom context that allows us to restrict long distance call. And the way we are going to do this is to go back on the custom context panel and create a new one. So at this stage, we'll give it a short name and click submit. Now before we click on apply configuration changes, we will scroll down again just like before. And now we'll use the same strategy. So we will allow all on all the parameters. Instead of using the deny value, like we did before, we will use the deny rules. Now the deny rules works in conjunction with this panel here. But in this particular case, what you have to do is put in the dialing sequence that you want to prevent or disable, if you will. So in this case, it's long distance, so put it in as such. Whatever we put in that field is essentially going to be denied using the deny rules value. So now what I want to do here is associate that to the basic internal dial plan and select deny rules. And of course, because this parameter is red, it goes hand in hand with the outbound route parameter, so I have to select deny rules as well. And I will select this one in particular. Now note I'm not going to change the IX2 because that's the one that connects to headquarters and allows us obviously to reach employees at that location. So we don't want to change that in this particular scenario. So now we can scroll down and click on submit and apply changes. There you go. Now it throws us automatically again to the extension panel. So if we click on the same extension that we had before, it should show us the custom context pull down menu showing up with the new value that we can now select. And right about here, we can click on it. And now we can see that we can select also disable long distance call. That's it. You've managed to create two different contexts that you can associate on a per extension basis. And that concludes our training module for today. Thank you for listening. Talk to you soon.